But what sets us apart from our competition, I know that there are a lot of choices out there, certainly in the market. You can't turn on the radio or the TV without hearing a certain company advertising all the time. I do believe we are the best choice when it comes to carbon cleaning. I'll kind of go into that. But first off, again, my name's Ryan Mcdonald, Citrusolution of Athens. Grew up in Marietta, Georgia, just about an hour and a half away. And I'm actually glad that Mac is here today, because when I was a senior in high school, I know he mentioned it, his presentation, but I went to Pope High School, and we actually beat Brookwood my senior year. Football.
I don't remember that one, bro.
I didn't think you would.
Try to forget.
Actually, we were supposed to play in the Dome. We got struck by lightning three days before, and they moved us. But I was the starting quarterback. No big deal. I like to talk about it. Crushed Brookwood. From there, actually, I actually went to Valdosta State for a year on a football scholarship, and then realized that South Georgia is someplace I didn't belong and didn't want to spend time. So then I transferred up to Athens and spent the next 5 or 6 years in college here, having a great time. I finally graduated, and then I think a lot of you, or you've heard me tell the story before, but the economy was kind of in a bit of a downturn at that point. So rather than take any kind of cubicle job or some part-time gig, I decided to sell my car, bought a one-way ticket, and moved to the Virgin Islands, and decided if I was gonna be poor, I was at least gonna have a nice tan. So moved there. Lived on the beach for 5 years, and ended up doing a few different things. I bartended, I worked at a dive shop, and ended up with the Ritz-Carlton doing marketing for their fractional ownership company that they have, their fancy timeshare, if you will. So did that for 3 years, and then they opened a new property in Vail, Colorado. So I went from the beach to the mountains, where it was, I remember looking at my car one morning, it was -8 driving to work, foot of snow on my car every day, and I was just like, I can't do this. This is too much. Moved down to Denver, and there I ended up getting into liquor sales. So I would call on liquor stores and was selling, Captain Morgan and Jose Cuervo and all that. And it was a pretty nice gig. You got a lot of free samples, which is right now, which I was supposed to share with the liquor stores, but I always took it home and enjoyed them myself, responsibly, of course. Always responsibly. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where the whole transition started into that transition. I'm gonna tie it together. Don't worry, I'm gonna tie it together. But I was talking with a coworker, and we were kind of talking about the company and distributor that we worked for, and he made the comment that the owners, their grandkids are never going to have to work a day in their life. And I was kind of thinking to myself, I'm out here kind of busting my out day in and day out. So somebody else's kids are never going to have to work. I was thinking, if I have to work so hard, I'd like it so my grandkids don't ever have to work. So I was kind of talking with my father about, different options to come back to the South, because I was so far out west and was looking for an opportunity. And he had kind of mentioned that the founder of our company, Citrusolution, was selling off kind of territories, franchises. And when he first mentioned it to me, as I think I've told people before, is I told him I couldn't be less interested. Like carpet cleaning, that's the last thing I want to be involved in, or thought I would want to be involved in. So then he said, well, Athens, Georgia is one of the places that is for sale. And I said, well, maybe I'll come home and check it out, just because, I had such fond memories of Athens, being here for far too long in college. But so I came back home one weekend and met with a few other owners, met with the founder, and they kind of expressed the same initial hesitations. They said, when we first looked at it, we thought that's the last thing we want to get into, and they were just raving about it. They loved kind of the ethics behind the company, obviously the process itself, and everyone was doing really well. They loved going into business for themselves. So I said, well, you know what, since, as Philip mentioned, I don't have any kids, I'm not married, don't have any pets, if there's ever a chance for me to kind of take that risk, it would be now. So I kind of packed all my stuff up and drove back down to Georgia, and got started about 3 years ago. And it's been a great ride. Definitely some ups and downs. At first, I didn't realize how hard it was to kind of start your own business. But then, as I've mentioned before, also the last 2 years we've been voted the #1 carpet cleaning company in Athens, so I think people have really started to embrace it. The owner says, standing next to our competitors, we look fantastic in this industry. Standing alone, we look like saints the way that a lot of the companies kind of operate. I think carpet cleaning generally has kind of a negative connotation, kind of similar to Phillips' industry, where a lot of bait and switch, a lot of small print that people don't realize, and I'll kind of go into that later. But so that's where we are today, and kind of going forward, as I said, I'll tell you a couple of things that separate us from our competition in the industry. #1 would probably be the bottle that's sitting in front of you. This is actually the solution that we use to clean the carpets. It's a citrus-based solvent. As you hear me say in my 60 seconds every week, we don't use any soaps or shampoos, so it doesn't leave behind any kind of like a soapy, sticky residue in the carpet. For that reason, we don't see stains return a week or two later like you might with some companies. I hear it all the time that people will tell me, we had the carpets cleaned and it looked great for about a week, but then after that, either it looks worse than before they had it cleaned, or the stains come back and they're a lot darker. And the reason for that is because all that soap is doing, anytime there's any kind of moisture in the air, or humidity, things like that, that soap gets activated, and all it's doing is grabbing any dirt that comes in contact with it. So that stain kind of gets darker and darker over time. So then they go to the cupboard, they grab another soap-based spot remover, pour more soap onto it, and then it's kind of a vicious cycle. Again, the citrus-based, it doesn't leave behind that residue, so we don't see stains come back. It's also safe for pets and children. So people, I think, especially in Athens, are becoming increasingly more. Or that's what they're searching for, obviously. You don't want your kids and pets rolling around on any kind of harsh chemicals, so it's safe for them. We also use it's a low moisture process, so the carpets are dried typically in about an hour. You don't have to wait 3 or 4 days for the carpets to dry to stay off them. I actually had a lady one time tell me that she had to stay off her carpets for 8 days because they had come in with kind of the typical process with the hoses, just kind of pump the carpets full of water. I don't know if you can imagine trying to stay off your carpets for 8 days would be kind of tough for everybody. And then obviously if you do unscrew the top here, you can smell it, leaves behind a nice fresh citrus scent. So no kind of musty chemically smell. There you go. Fresh, pleasant citrus scent. It's not a fragrance that we add. I get calls from people all the time who are allergic to certain things. And I tell them it's just kind of the natural. It's actually oils extracted from citrus fruits, lemons, oranges, and grapefruit. So again, it's not any kind of fragrance that we add. It's the kind of natural occurring smell. Let's see. And I guess yes.
Do you own the solution?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tyler. Thank you. It's not actually a product that anybody else can go on. I have exclusive rights to it, so there are no other companies that can use it. Actually, the owner of our company, he actually, I guess almost like Coca-Cola, he has a formula. He developed it himself. He has the patent on it. No one really knows what's in it, so you can't really copy it. But the way the franchise works is that we buy all the solution from him, and we use it exclusively. So.
Says I spilled something in my car the other day, and anyway, I had to go to the car place to get it, vacuumed out and stuff like that. And anyway, it still smelled awful, and I didn't know if it's like, golly, could they get your solution and you sell it to car detailing places? Would that help?
It's something I've been approached about a little bit. I'm not sure.
I can answer that. You've left some with me. It works amazingly well in cars.
Yeah.
Okay? One thing I'm never going to do is give a guy his car back to him with a spot on it with a grease stain or anything like
right.
that. Stuff works.
Yeah,
works on
really
seats, works on carpets.
Yeah, it does, because it's I guess one of the other main ingredients is a delimonene, if anybody's familiar with that. It's really come on in the past few years. They're finding all kinds of uses for it, which is why its price has doubled or tripled here in the last few years. But it's really a powerful degreaser. And for me, it works great on George red clay, pet stains, coffee spills, things like that. Sorry, did you raise your hand?
Does it work on upholstery?
It sure does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it sure does. It works really great after a long night of a lot of Captain Morgan. I'll tell you that. All right, well, I got 2 minutes left, and I'll just kind of touch on another thing that sets us apart. Yeah.
You were referring to the stains that come back. Somebody told me one time that was a result of the sugars. I mean, depending on what caused the stain, but if it's something like Coca-Cola
right.
or something like that, it's a result of the sugars that are in the, in the Coca-Cola syrup or whatever, it gives you a carpet kind of stays there. It takes that out.
Yeah, well, the way we work, it kind of like neutralizes it, breaks it down on the enzyme level, almost kind of eats it away. Whereas I guess if the typical companies will maybe come in and try to extract it, and if it isn't as effective, a lot of times some of those chemicals kind of bond to the carpets. They're not able to pull it all out. So if it leaves behind any of that, again, it's just going to be...
And that just gets attached to the carpet fibers.
Right, and you can't get that with, typical vacuuming, things like that. So we use a different process. We don't do the extraction method. We use it's a rotary, looks like a floor buffer that has a brush on it. So it activates the solution in the carpet, also wakes up any kind of dirt or dust, allergens, kind of dander that's deep down you can't get with vacuuming, brings it up to the surface, then we come back over with a hospital grade or HEPA certified vacuum and kind of picks all it up. So again, very different from that. And again, just real quick, pricing, something that separates us. We have no hidden fees or charges, no bait and switch. We're not the company that is going to advertise, we'll clean your whole house for $49 and then you get the bill and it's $300. What people call, we do a flat rate by the area, so I tell people I give exact estimates over the phone. I think typically to be honest, we're probably not the cheapest company every time. I think we're kind of somewhere right in the middle, but again, no stain fees, no fuel charges. The price we quote over the phone is the price that you'll be charged. So I guess that's about it, unless anybody has any more questions. I think I'm probably right at about 10 minutes.
Yeah, you got it. Okay.
You got that. Sam? Not bad for all. Right. Well, if anybody does have any more questions, I'll be around after the meeting, so please feel free to come talk to me.